Yeah. So.
Hi, hello, namaskar everyone. I am Vidhi and I welcome you all on behalf of TERRE Policy Center's Smart Campus Cloud Network and Mazha Career Guide Foundation on this two-day National Roundtable Conference on Sustainability, Way Forward for Future Development and Nation Building, with the aim to create an opportunity for academicians, researchers, and professionals from private and public sector, civil society, and central and state government, and the professionals from the Pan India to meet, exchange ideas, present their progress, and discuss future developments and the course of action to be taken in the respective discipline. And especially, it is closely related to sustainability practices. We, the team of TERRE Policy Center's Smart Campus Cloud Network and Mazha Career Guide Foundation, has organized a two-day National Roundtable Conference on Sustainability, Way Forward for Future Development and Nation Building. I take this opportunity to welcome each one of you who are passionate about the environment, climate action, and SDGs. Today is the first day of our conference, and we have with us our honorable speakers, Dr. Rajendra Shane, Chairman, TERRE Policy Center, former Director UNEP, and Mr. Sudeep Ranjan Datta, Assistant Vice President, Sustainable Finance at Barclays Investment Bank. They are joining us today and they would be sharing their minds and would be enlightening us on the topics that are role of youth towards attaining the SDGs and careers in corporate sustainability. I welcome both of our speakers from the bottom of my heart. And before actually initiating the program, I would like to request my co-host, Ms. Durga, to let our viewers know about the noble work that TERRE Policy Center is doing and adding their bit towards society. Over to you, Durga.
Yeah, thank you so much. Hi, hello. I'm Durga Kamit from TERRE Policy Center as project executive working on Smart Campus Cloud Network project. And I would like to introduce this organization called as TERRE Policy Center. TERRE is a French word for earth, and it is an abbreviation for technology, education, research, and rehabilitation for the environment. And it is a non-profit organization as a hub for shaping the minds of the citizens and the politicians. It helps to align the thinking of academicians and the business corporations on the need for sustainable patterns, and it acts as a bridge between the academicians and the business people on environment and development issues. So let me introduce a flagship project of TERRE Policy Center called as Smart Campus Cloud Network, which is a network of universities. So now you can see my screen, which has a logo of SCCN, and I have few terms such as youth, universities, SDGs, action, digital technologies, and carbon neutrality. So this is what SCCN is about. So I, being an environmental architect, would like to talk to all of you audience as a youth, a person from youth, and that is what SCCN is all about. It is about youth students which are part of universities, and these universities are the hub for knowledge sharing and aligning their activities to SDGs. And SCCN believes in action, not just the talk. And that is how we share our action. We let students be the main and the front line of this action, and we share their activities, their success stories on a digital platform that is a cloud dashboard. And one of our initiative is a net zero campuses, which is also a part of our Prime Minister Narendra Modi's vision of making India net zero by 2070. So that is all about SCCN, which is a network of 400 universities, and almost 250 universities have signed this pledge for carbon neutrality, and they have initiated the actions of the activities that will reduce their carbon emissions and which will contribute to this net zero target of 2070. Thank you. I would request VD to take over and go ahead with the next.
Yeah. Thank you. And so before actually initiating it, I would also like to let the viewers know about a very new subject where the term that is very famous and very trending in the society, that is customized. So now this customized word has been associated with the careers as well. So it is a good news for the people who are actually seeking or exploring or trying to explore different career opportunities. We are a group of enthusiasts who are working to bridge the gap between the need and the interest of the career selection process. So we are a group of 25 to 30 youth connected across the country, working in the domain of education, especially in the education awareness, career guidance, and employment. We believe that every student or a learner has a great potential in driving out positive change in the society. All that is needed is a customized career, which will not only feed his interest, but also fulfill his needs of employment. So we work in this direction, and in the joint collaboration with TERRE Policy Center, today we are here with a very new topic concerned with environment. So now we would be moving towards our guests speaking up now. But before that, before I request Dr. Rajendra Shane to please come up with this topic, it is my moral responsibility that I let the viewers know and introduce Dr. Rajendra Shane. So Dr. Rajendra Shane, sir, he is the former UNEP director and international expert on sustainable development, green economy, climate action, energy, ozone layer protection, and food security. He completed his education in IIT Bombay. He was a former professional in private sector, including Tata Chemicals. He is currently the chairman of TERRE Policy Center, which is a non-profit organization working for environmental and societal benefits. He has successfully led a global team of 50 UN staff with diverse cultural background and with near perfect gender balance in UNEP's Paris office and regional offices in Bangkok, Nairobi, Panama City, and Bahrain. He has worked with top level delegates of 146 developing countries to enable them to comply with one of the most successful multilateral environmental treaty through capacity building, institutional strengthening, and regional networking. He has the direct experience in international and national environmental policy formulation and forging innovative partnerships with government, NGOs, intergovernment organizations, and private sector on critical issues like strengthening synergies and coherence with United Nations system to integrate the environmental dimension into the sustainable development dialogues and strategies. He is a strong believer and practitioner in consensus building at local, national, and international platforms on the challenging and sensitive environmental negotiations. He is known for encouraging and inspiring creative concepts and practical programmatic approaches in developing, implementing, reporting, and monitoring national strategies for ecosystem nurturing. He has the oversight experience in managing multi-locational regional offices of UNEP and their programs, including administrating and monitoring the delivery and budgets. Leadership, he is inspiring for all the young people who are very much passionate about coming together and making a change in the society. He has been awarded with many awards, and he has been the reviewer, a contributor, and coordinated lead author of IP that the Nobel Prize in 2007. He continues to be the part of the strategic committees and reviewers of publication on climate change. He is the member of Governing Council of MIT World Peace University, India. He is the advisor of Media India France, chairman of Working Group of International Solar Alliance, chairman of International Advisory Board of Operation Earth China, advisor to China Biodiversity Conservation Global Development Foundation. He is very intense and passionate follower of principles of leading by examples, practicing what we preach, and walking the talk. I welcome you, sir, from the bottom of my heart, and we are really very eager to hear from you and get enlightened on the topic. Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you, Vidhi. Yes, it was a very sumptuous, generous, flattening introduction. Normally, I just request the one who introduces me to say that I come from a village. I think that is the key asset. The villages that are disappearing nowadays due to urbanization have what is called as assets of knowledge. And the cities are assets of economic assets. And I feel that kind of an asset from the village, knowledge, which is basically coming from the nature, where the villages are nearest to the nature, that drives you to think about what we are talking today. That's the most important thing. I would like to say why my convictions are strengthened when I'm talking to you people, as well as the people, the youth in general, who are trying to customize their career. It is because of the kind of a success that I got at international level, which is a very rare success. I mean, United Nations do not have many successes in their list in their pocket. But one of the unique singular success was the saving of the ozone layer, without which the life on Earth will not exist. That we saved. So that shield is now coming back to the original level, which was in a danger of disappearing. And had we not taken any action, or had United Nations not taken any action, probably Vidhi, you would not have been arranged this seminar, because we would not have been existing. All the life on the earth would have been dead. So that is a success. Well, I must say that I also had, I won't say opportunity, but sort of a misgiving on working with one of the most unsuccessful programs of United Nations, and that is a climate change. We have been seeing it. There are scientific facts. There are evidences, the solid disastrous evidences everywhere. And I'm not going to repeat about the droughts and the floods and the melting of glaciers and the whatever you have in front of you. In spite of all those things, we are still moving extremely slowly towards it by creating what is called as a customized examples of somewhere putting solar panels, somewhere having electrical vehicles, somewhere having organic farming. And why I'm taking all those things is because I have them in my farm. I live in a farm where all my lighting, electricity comes from solar. Not all the food, but at least some of the vegetables and some of the grains come from my organic farms. I have an electric vehicle. I have my own way of charging the bore wells from which I get a water. I don't get a water from Pune Municipal Corporation. So I have all those eco-friendly methods, but are they enough? One person doing here and there tinkering, is it enough? So what I would like to arrive at, knowing that your aim is the youth and you want to customize their career, I'm going to give a topic which will generate a debate. And there are two terms which I'm going to use. I like your term of customizing careers. I also be helped in saying that nowadays the students are designing their own degree. That doesn't mean the degree certificate, but designing their own degree, whether they want to have a degree in sustainable development, consisting of few development goals or all 17 development goals, or only on climate change. So universities and the students and the faculty are thinking about customizing their degree. And then based on those degrees, you come to what is called as a customizing your career. But before that, let me say the two words on which my today's intervention will depend on. The term number one, eco-anxiety. And the second one is oxymoron. And let me tell you whether I'm dramatizing the whole issue or what exactly I'm trying to convey to you. Keep it in the mind that this particular interaction is for the purpose of debate, and I'm initiating that. So let's talk about eco-anxiety. See, the eco-anxiety is now right from the 7th standard to about the PhD, and maybe some of the CEOs who are now busy in their startups and mergers and enhancing their ESG or whatever it may be, that eco-anxiety is with everyone. One of the reports said that the school children nowadays have the anxiety not just about passing the examination, but anxiety about the ecosystem that is getting degraded, because they have been hearing it everywhere in the cartoon books, in the banners, maybe in their curriculum, maybe their teachers are talking in between, maybe their parents are talking, TVs are talking, everywhere they have, and they have the anxiety, they get confused. They say, what kind of the world that we have to work in order to build our career? So that eco anxiety is there. Is about 60% of the school children today surveyed through the very authentic surveys have showed that their anxiety is more related to the ecosystems where they live. And let's take another term called as oxymoron. Let me explain the Oxford Dictionary of oxymoron. Oxymoron is the concept where there are two opposing thoughts are just opposed. They are facing each other. Example, solar energy. Now I'm coming to not 7th standard. I'm now coming to the PhDs, because that is a span Vidhi explained to me, that you are trying to use this debate in order to educate and customize the career from 7th standard to the PhD or the postgraduate or post fellowship kind of students. Take the example of solar panel. It gives the renewable energy. Right from our Prime Minister to the United Nations Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, everybody talks, we have to enhance the use of solar panels. Now there is another thought which is not misplaced. What we do with all those solar panels, because they are not in use. And what is the kind of energy we are spending or incurring in making those solar panels? And what kind of natural resources which you are using for these solar panels, which are not getting replenished? So these are the two thoughts. Is solar panel the answer? That is what oxymoron says. And we eco-anxiety guys are saying, oh, let's get into the solar panel so we overcome our anxiety. Okay, probably solar panel for a 7th standard person is probably difficult to understand. And I'm not going to explain now how the solar panel is manufactured. But one thing is clear, that country like China became a leader in solar panel, mainly because they accepted that the pollution that will cause due to the manufacture of solar panel, we can accommodate it. There is a tremendous pollution that is caused by making a solar panel. And the people don't have answer. It's a similar story of electrical vehicles. Everybody talks about having electrical vehicles. I have one. I use it. But every time I start, I say, what is going to happen to the disposal of these batteries? And I call my colleagues in Tata Motors. And they said, well, we are taking measures. Now the point is, why those measures were not taken before making the EV? Why we have to spread the EV concept and then start thinking about disposal of batteries? So we are not learning from the lesson. We don't know how to dispose of the lead batteries where the solar energy is stored during the night so that we can get the lights. We know that it existed, that problem, but we didn't try to attempt that. Let's take the example of 7th standard person of tissue paper. You go to any tablet, a nice looking public toilet, and you will see that they promote use of tissue paper. We use a tissue paper in our own home in order to save the water maybe, or for convenience. And we say that if you want to save the water, use the tissue paper. What about the trees we cut for making the tissue paper? What kind of water we use for a tissue paper? There are a lot of calculations have been made. And the people are now saying, don't use water, don't use tissue paper, use what is called as a air pressure toilets. Well, there are oxymorons there too. Where the air comes from. And who drives that air with the pressure? What about the energy that is put in that? So those are the questions which need to be debated. And then we come to the story of Einstein, who said, you cannot solve the problem by using the same thinking as you used while creating the problem. One of the worst example of our development is the incandescent lamp invented by Edison. I mean, he had that idea about our forefathers used the fire to cook. And while cooking on the fire, they also got the lights. So the fire is an example of multitasking. It gives the heat, it gives the light. Maybe it is burned by the tree, using the wood, which can be renewable, people say. But in incandescent lamp, that is a bulb, which is now supposed to be out of the market now, is still there in some cases. Then 90% of energy goes in heating the element, heating the wire, the small filament there. And only 10% of it goes in giving the lights. Now, the human brain, who is supposed to be taking a pride in talking that we are going to create an alternate intelligence called as artificial intelligence, couldn't think about it. That 90% of your energy has gone, wasted, to give a 10% of your light. The only example of a good invention I can think of is what is called as a LED. It uses photons, and the photons are used by way of some interaction. I'm not going to say about the electronic composition of the LEDs and those kind of things. And thankfully, Nobel, the prizes in physics, they recognized this and they gave the prize to that. I'm not sure whether Edison got a Nobel Prize for inventing that incandescent lamp. Maybe somebody has to check it. But that will be the worst example where that Nobel Prize can go to the wrong place. And the best example is our LED lamps. There is no heating takes place. Everything goes for lighting purpose. And that gives that, well, sometimes the oxymorons could be wrong. Oxymorons can lose their jobs, because there could be the example which is a real sustainable development example of that. And many of the sustainable development examples have come in order to conclude this talk, which I believe will probably continue during question and answer session. Most of these good examples of sustainable development or real sustainable examples come from the nature. That nature existed much more than what human beings existed on this earth. And the nature should be the one which should be copied. Biomimicry need to be promoted. An LED example, I'm convinced, it's not written anywhere, but I'm convinced that it has come from the fireflies. You know, fireflies in the night. In Marathi, we call it kazwa. That that firefly doesn't burn anything in order to give you the light. It uses certain mechanisms to produce photons. And somebody caught that example. And there are a number of such examples, whether it is an aeroplane, whether it is a submarine, whether it is a wind turbine, or whether it is our jackets for a cold winter, which we are not forgotten because of the global warming. But they have come from the feathers of the birds. We copied that. And they didn't patent it. They didn't get money. The nature did not get money from us for giving us that kind of a knowledge. And there is another positive oxymoron comes in a picture. It says the bad behavior of human beings by not respecting the nature who has given you such a high knowledge. I would like to stop here by telling that all this tinkering of sustainable development is going to lead us to pandemic number 2. Bill Gates, only a few days back, has given a lecture. He's the one who said about pandemic coming, and we just listened to it. And that particular video where he predicted a pandemic coming to us by nearly 49 million viewers on YouTube. And Bill Gates said that 90% of those viewers were after the pandemic. So only 10% took the note of it. The others just wanted to see that how he predicted it. And he now gave the lecture a few days back, by which he said, well, I don't know whether pandemic is over or not, but this is the time to get ready for the next pandemic. He was talking about the health. I'm talking about the next pandemic will be climate change. And these oxymorons should not be disrespected. Their thoughts have to be taken into consideration to tell about whether all these ESG phenomena, the investment in ESG over the last 5 years, getting doubled, tripled, and all those things, are they really going to solve the problem? Or it is just a tinkering, or it's just a greenwashing? And I'll leave this particular my intervention with that thought. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. It was really an interesting message where you have actually mentioned that we humans are directly moving towards using the formula. Just having an electric vehicle or having a solar panel on our rooftop does not mean that we are actually contributing. We should have the calculations in the back of the mind to prevent the next pandemic, as you have mentioned about. We would get back to you with lots of questions. Now I forward this thing to Ms. Durga to continue.
Yeah, thank you. I would take this session ahead and would like to introduce our next speaker, that is Mr. Sudeep Ranjan Datta. He works as a Assistant Vice President, Sustainable Finance at Barclays Investment Bank. Previously, he was an Associate Director, Sustainable Finance at S&P Global. Sudeep holds a postgraduate degree from IIT Bombay. His role is to provide institutional investors across different market segments with robust and scientific data-driven insights for investment decisions and engagement approaches, helping to shape the agenda for investors, mandates, and stakeholders' engagement on socially and environmentally responsible market behavior. His work is aimed at designing tailored approaches and strategies for integrating sustainability and material, environment, social, and governance factors into investments and understanding the finance risk to investments. This helps major investors meet their evolving needs in a changing regulatory environment, as well as take the lead in capturing strategic opportunities across different asset classes by analyzing the highlighted portfolio risk. So I request Mr. Sudeep to take the floor.
Thanks a lot, Durga, and thank you all the panelists and everyone for having me. The topic is really interesting, and Dr. Shane did speak about a lot of current issues that we face, and opened the floor to everyone to actually challenge yourself, think about what you can possibly do, both as individuals, but as a group where you can influence policy. You can be the climate scientists who come up with the unique solutions to help combat climate change. So as the latest UN reports say, that like it is not just the abatement or mitigation techniques that will help us reach the goal of limiting global warming. But we also have to make the continuous innovations to remove the carbon dioxide out in our air, the different, not just the capturing techniques. So this presents a lot of opportunities across like different market segments where they can come up with their own unique solutions. But for today's talk, what I would like to focus is on corporate sustainability. Why it is important, why corporate sustainability is important. Governments are have formed consortiums. They are sitting down discussing what should be the necessary policy interventions that can limit climate change or biodiversity loss or water depletion or waste production, waste generation. So governments are doing. Then what is the role of private organizations? It is as critical, even if not more, for them to work together, because majority of these issues, what we also call as externalities generated by these companies, are directly related to some of these issues that we face. So as a company, let me take an example. As a company who is in Mumbai and headquartered in Mumbai, has a plant in Navi Mumbai, has a plant in Pune, and another plant in Ahmednagar. What does, and it produces a particular commodity. Across its own operations in those plants, it uses natural resources. It generates waste. It uses water, emits carbon dioxide, emits air pollutants. But now we are at a stage where companies are encouraged to look beyond their direct operations into the supply chain also. Say, for example, they are sourcing a material that comes from a farm in Kerala. Until now, companies were only reporting or taking care of their own operations, but increasingly they are being asked, or they have been challenged actually to be more comprehensive in their analysis of the externalities that they are creating via their operations, and also look at their value chain, at the supply chain. So if they're sourcing from Kerala and they are not producing that commodity in a sustainable way, which is harming the environment, then it is the responsibility of the company to make sure and to engage with the stakeholder, with the supplier, to make sure the overall business is sustainable. Now, since a great, I think that a lot of you are under age group of less than 25, I believe. So you are the ones who are driving this change. Why companies are responding to this challenge? Because companies do not respond to a challenge until they see something is impacting their bottom line. By bottom line, I mean their profitability, all the terms that you hear, their earnings before interest tax, their earnings per share. They understand that language the best. There are exceptions though, corporations who are doing it in a very voluntary way, but most of the companies are chasing these profits. And when, as a consumer, the millennials, the Gen Z, they are looking for more sustainable products, and in some cases also ready to pay a premium to what they would for a company that is producing, say, a good with emitting a lot of carbon, using a lot of natural resources. Identify their operations have been identified to have a negative impact on the societies in where they operate, human rights abuses, or bad governance practices. So I think that is where the youth particularly is driving the change. They are demanding these products that are produced in a responsible and ethical way. Governments are now under the heat. Everybody, almost everyone, is committing to net zero, which has now become the buzzword. But apart from that, they have their nationally determined contributions. They need to come up with certain policies to restrict it. So they are demanding these companies to disclose what is their externalities, because what you can't control something that you can't measure. So that is why the governments are asking them, and the stock exchange on which they are being listed, or the industry consortiums that they are part of, they are asking them to disclose on these metrics, disclose how much carbon in terms of carbon dioxide emissions, equivalent emissions you are emitting, meter cube of water that you're using, natural resources that you're using in their operations, waste you are generating. Break it down as much as you can. Break it down by the scopes, break it down by the type of use, break it down by the type of waste. What it then helps do is ensure comparison on a like-to-like basis. Now I can say a company A versus company B. I can do this comparison of who is performing well on certain metrics and who is creating a positive impact as well. And this is where I would like to pivot to the work that I specifically do. I work with institutional investors. They are creating this pressure on companies to respond to this climate emergency. How they are doing it? First, the negative screening. They are asking companies that if you are not able to perform or have your externalities limited, or do the best in class abroad, the best in class practices to reduce the emissions or the water use, then we will divest. We will not, and this is growing big. The divestments are growing, and more for fossil fuel companies, along with other class of negative exclusions as well, with related to nuclear weapons, with related to other faith-based exclusions. What they are also trying to do is engage. So what first approach that you see is they are pulling their money out of that company. What does that mean? Does that really have an impact? No. Somebody else will buy that. Maybe a company who is an investor who is not so bound by these international treaties or doesn't think the way the majority of ethical investors think. They might have it. So they engage with the companies, talk to their boards, try to revamp the companies to make it more sustainable. And hence, what they want to do is, for the companies that they hold in their portfolio, they want to study what is the impact, what is their carbon footprint of those companies, what is the overall environmental footprint of their companies. If a carbon price is introduced 5 years down the line, 10 years down the line in India, which is of course right now in 50+ jurisdictions in different parts of the world, what will be the impact on the earnings of their company if that is introduced? Based on the emission trajectory of the company since last 3 to 4 years, what is their alignment to a net zero? So every company has industry has a carbon budget, company based on its size has a carbon budget. So based on this emission trajectory and the targets it has disclosed, whether it is in line at all to be aligned to the 1.5 or 2 degrees Celsius target, or they are seeing if it is, this is what they are looking, but they're also seeing, are the companies contributing towards her, and the organ is doing a great work on SDGs. Are they contributing to a particular SDG through their operations, through their products, through their services? Are they, and are those in countries that need the most or will be benefited the most? Or are they in sectors that are enablers, that are helping mitigate climate change or helping adapt to climate change? So, so green energy, energy efficiency, company working in energy efficiency. As Sir said, it is not just green energy that is the solution. Energy efficiency, what about the old buildings, old factories that need retrofitting that can be more sustainable? Energy efficiency is the key. Green transport is one thing, but at the same time, What about the buildings? Buildings actually are responsible for a majority of the emissions. So green buildings. We have to think about all of these in a holistic way, and investors are doing that. And right now, I will tell you the market opportunity. So 38 trillions in US dollars of ESG assets are now tied to ESG, which is approximately now will be 1/3 of the overall assets that are managed worldwide. So give you a reference, India's GDP is 3.2 trillion. Though this might look like very big numbers, but at the central, what is it? What are they trying to do? They are trying to use the power that they have of providing capital to the companies to influence the behavior of the companies. How successful it is, it's debatable. Some are doing it very efficiently. Some are failing or doing tick box exercises. But the idea is we have to start from somewhere. And it is where I think there is a big opportunity for youth to come in and contribute. So the traditional investors have been measuring their returns in a traditional way, that what is their earnings per share, what is the return on capital employed, and other metrics. Now they also, now the youth that comes in and works in this sector can also come up with alternative measurements of what is the return or the positive impact that they are generating. What is the tons of carbon that they are offsetting through their activities that they have undertaken. So I think I'll take a pause with those thoughts. I think I've spoken too much in a little time, and some of these are more complex because you have to consider everything. A company is geographically so spread, like a big conglomerate, for example. Across its business activities, their impacts are different. How do you then treat the whole companies, as a company as a whole, and determine whether it is contributing or doing its best to limit its externalities? So the youth can not just be the climate scientists who study what the risks we are facing and do and support it by data. They can also work in the corporate sustainability cells of these companies, helping them come up with these unique solutions that can limit their externalities. They can also work with these investors, fund managers, increasingly banks, insurance companies, development organizations to actually help. See, we, as Sir said, it is not just everybody would need to come together to arrive at the success of this initiative. So whether you are at SBI Bank looking at their loan portfolio, seeing that SBI doesn't lend its money to expanding fossil fuel operations in Bombay High, does that create an impact? Maybe in the larger scheme of things, small impact, but is that needed? Yes, it definitely is. If an insurance company are working and I see they don't underwrite a portfolio, don't underwrite a company which has a bad reputation of human rights violations in their operations in Northeast, does that make a difference? Yes, it does. Because where companies are motivated when they are challenged and when their source of funding is limited, and they have to show progress to get that. So I think with this, I'll stop and would like you to think more about these innovative solutions, both from the technology, but as well as like with the capital, use of capital to influence this behavior.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Sudeep. You rightly said that we cannot control something that we cannot measure. And for that, we need to disclose, the companies need to disclose their consumption of carbon dioxide. So thank you very much. I would go ahead with the question and answers from our audience. And the question I would like to put up is to Mr. Sudeep. That is, what is ESG? How is ESG shaping the path towards sustainability for industries?
Okay. So the ESG is acronym for environmental social governance. Why this is important for companies and why this is important for our overall aim of having a low carbon resource efficient economy. It is because companies disclose on these metrics. We have carbon accounting methods to say what is the direct operations, emission from their direct operations, emission from their purchase electricity, emission from their value chain, water that they are using, processed water, cooling water, recycled water, waste, landfill waste, then your incinerated waste. What these metrics, what they help us do is then regulate. We know that what is the earlier very few used to disclose. Once we have this in front of us, we can determine which company is, obviously these impacts will depend on the size of the company, their location of their operations, the sectors in which they're operating. But with that context in mind, we have to see what are the companies doing to control this. And once the data is out there in public, that puts them in public scrutiny in front of regulators, scrutiny in front of investors, scrutiny in front of their consumers who are buying this product. This scrutiny to be included in certain funds which are only investing in these companies which are energy efficient or low carbon. This is shaping the change. They are now, even if they voluntarily don't want to, at certain stage, even to ensure access of capital or even to ensure cost of capital is low for their operations and to avoid the legal and regulatory liabilities that can arise from some of these externalities that they are creating, they are changing.
Durga, kindly unmute yourself. You're not audible.
Yeah, sorry. So my next question would be, what according to you would be the growth of employment in the sector of sustainability in coming 5 years?
This sector is right now very hot. I think it is because of the the assets tied to ESG. So as I said, it's close to a $38 trillion market of ESG money tied to ESG assets. What does that mean? That means that we will need people who understand what are the needs to arrive at the targets, the 1.5 degree targets, the resource efficiency targets, the targets for biodiversity protection, as well as the strategies on how to get to those. Having the targets is a good thing. Even the task force on climate related financial disclosures, they say that along with the targets, you need governance, you need risk management, you need a strategy. So across the governance to ensure we reach to these targets, the risk management that needs to take place to get to these targets, we need people across all those functions. One particular area, talking about India, where I see a great growth, apart from increasing number of professionals that the corporations will need to have in their own sustainability cells, or their health, safety, environment cells, or their corporate social responsibility cells who are experts. The fund managers, including, I met somebody at Axis Bank, Axis Capital, who is working on the Indian equities, who is working to screen those companies so that they can be included in their mutual funds that they are launching as ESG mutual funds. So Indian fund houses are hiring people with expertise on this. They can screen their portfolio for these risks. Also, there will be growth in job opportunities across opportunities as well. So while climate change presents a risk, as so said, solar came out of that opportunity, wind came out of that opportunity, EVs came out of that opportunity. Across it's not just risk. So we need people who can do these risk assessments, but the opportunities that have come out of it, say sustainable finance is one of the opportunities. Now, if you have to align your capital to this, to a company, you need analysis of these companies. So right now, companies such as Sustainalytics, companies such as ISS, companies such as S&P, Barclays, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley Capital International, all have their operations in India. They employ ESG professionals in one capacity or the other. And this is growing. Increasingly, development banks, the local banks, the insurers also are setting up their own units, their center of excellences, as well as the assurance companies, the big fours, the Deloitte, the PwCs, the EY. They are providing their own sustainability services, helping companies produce those reports that they need to adhere to the reporting standards, the environmental reporting standards that India has, or the companies that have their operations in other parts of the world. They need to have these aligned to a certain reporting standard, GRI, SASB, integrated reporting framework. We need professionals across all of these. So not just they can work at corporate cells, they can work with consultancies, they can work with fund managers, they can work with the regulators increasingly as well. So across this array of responsibilities, around this array of opportunities, they have to find the sweet spot where they find that this is something they'll enjoy and this is something that they can contribute meaningfully. So a long answer to a short question, but I think I wanted to cover all the different opportunities that exist.
Thank you, Mr. Sudeep. Taking the discussion ahead, I want to move from corporate to universities. And my next question would be to Dr. Rajendra Shane. So how we can make our common citizens and young students better understand the SDGs?
Well, I think SDG phenomena, just to give you a background on how it emerged, then you will probably understand how those can be explained. Because I think the explanation could be embedded in an emergence. We had before SDGs, what is called as MDGs, Millennium Development Goals, that lasted from year 2000 to 2015. There are 8 Millennium Development Goals, and the whole objective of Millennium Development Goals, which were accepted almost by all the countries who are the member states of United Nations, is to make sure that the sustainable development moves ahead by no damage to the natural resources on the planet, the ecosystems are protected well or used in a sustainable way, inequities are reduced, and we have a situation which is equivalent to what is called as a peace, prosperity, and economic, social, and environmental growth. There is a report available to what extent MDGs succeeded. In one sentence, MDGs were mixed success. We had failures, we had some successes, but that probably camouflages that MDGs were biggest failures. Coming from United Nations, that statement will be probably called as what is called as a drastic statement. But I think that led to the further movement of making SDGs. And then there were 17 SDGs. And why the number increased is not because of trying to bring various subjects inside, but then it covers what is called as encompassing the issues which were contradictory to each other. And for example, which I mentioned in my presentation, that when you try to solve one problem, you create another problem. So those issues can be solved by attaining certain sustainable development goals. And I think that background is very important. That tinkering the knowledge or tinkering the inventions or tinkering the development, which is causing a serious damage to the nature, probably is not good enough. And we need to have what is called a widespread sustainable development, which does not create any further problem. And that probably gives us a clue of telling the university students that, look, while solving the issues, make sure that either you are aware of the problems that it is going to come and you are taking measures to avoid those problems, or don't enter into it. I gave some of the examples while presenting. So the way to tell and explain the SDGs is to say that sustainable development goal or the sustainable development is that development which proceeds without harming the nature and also without compromising the development of the next generation. And without compromising the development of next generation means that don't have a development just for your generation. Don't have an incandescent lamp only to give you the light in your generation. It should continue to give the light in the next generation in a sustainable way. And these are the kind of stories need to be told to the university students in order to explain those sustainable development goals. I don't think we should explain the sustainable development goals by asking them to memorize 17 SDGs, 169 targets, and 234 success indicators. I mean, of course, some of the examples of UPSC exam and MPSC exam, they say that if you memorize it, you probably will succeed. And if these are the IAS and IFS officers we are going to produce, then our next generation will not be able to benefit that. And that's where the career development comes in terms of understanding that what exactly we are trying to do. What I liked from Sudeep's presentation is the disclosure part of it. So the way to explain the sustainable development goals is to make sure that each and every private sector, the governments, and even NGOs disclose their operation in such a way that they try to explain how the SDGs are met by them. Of course, the environmental social governance, SDGs implementation and SDGs indicators will be part of it. I hope so, because there is a lot of reporting that is going on now. We have our GRI standards, we have ISO standards, we have what is called as a sustainability report, then there is a ESG report. I'm sure there could be all these big companies like McKinsey and Deloitte are going to harmonize all that. But the key thing that the university students should know is to make sure that all these companies are investing in the products that will help not only in their generation, but the next generation as well. And that kind of awareness, that kind of understanding need to be created by the governments, NGOs, through the policies, through the awareness programs, etc., etc. And that brings me to what is called as a customizing the career. No youth will listen to you, because there are very few youth like Mahatma Gandhi when he was young, who could sacrifice everything and then go for whatever he wants to do. I don't think today's youth is going to do that. They're going to see what is there for me, what is there for himself in doing it. And that probably would lead to see that, okay, there are opportunities of creating awareness. So working with NGO, there are opportunities to work in the private sector, because as Sudeep said, we have trillions of dollars in ESG coming. So you require a finance person to manage it, to advise, to monitor, to do the analysis of it. And at the same time, you need in a government as well as in industry to make sure that that kind of products and the processes keep on going on. And the more and more divestment is done in a fossil fuels or all other what is called as an unsustainable future. So unless you tell them that these are the things that you are going to benefit from and your children are going to benefit from, then they won't be without that, they won't be able to understand what the SDGs are, not by reciting them or by memorizing them.
Durga, kindly unmute yourself.
Yeah, sorry. So yes, SDGs cannot be memorized, and that is the reason some actions need to be taken. So can you suggest some of the actions that can be taken towards sustainability?
Thank you for that. And I think that's where I think I was expecting the next question. And yes, it is not memorizing, it is not putting in a textbook, it is not courses, online courses, and that what is that, mute courses, MOOC courses, and all those things that are fine. The key point is we are losing the time. The disasters, this is a statement of Antonio Guterres, United Nations Secretary General. The disaster is running faster than our solutions. What do you do in such cases? In such cases, what you do is act. It's nice to say act, but act on what? So, just like I think Sudeep mentioned it, that in place of climate change, there's what is called as a nationally determined contributions, which are given to the United Nations. Similarly, I think the agencies like TERRE Policy Center, as well as Mazha, they should be coming together to have the movement of what is called as individually determined contributions. IDCs. What are the individual contributions that can be made? Start from your home, what Mahatma Gandhi said. Be the change, what you want to see. Do it yourself. And it is happening. The eco-anxiety word which I put on, that is resulting into individuals taking action. When you go to shop, you insist of not giving a plastic bag, single-use plastic bag. Because our Prime Minister said that India would be free of 2022, December 31st, 2022, free of single-use plastic. Now, unless individually we all do that, this will not be possible. That's number one. Number two is you can also do it collectively. And the campus of any university or college or higher education institute represents that collective captive audience to carry out the action leading to the SDGs. Make your campus carbon neutral. Why wait for 2070 as our Prime Minister says? It can be done. The campus can lead by being in the front, by saying that it can be done in the next 5 years. Why not? Take the action on biodiversity in a campus. On Pune University campus, for example, we are, I think most of us are in Pune. The Pune University campus is full of biodiversity. And I think somebody should do a baseline survey and make sure that the indicators are disclosed, as Sudeep says. The disclosure is not only for industries. The disclosure should be for even individuals and the campuses. They should disclose what they are doing. Today, the universities are attracting the students by saying that, well, we have a beautiful buildings, we have a green campus, we have nicely laid roads, and we have a canteen, which is the most modern canteen, all those things. But the students should take admission in those campuses which have disclosed their carbon emission, those who have disclosed their waste management plans. And I would suggest that a person like Sudeep should be working with the universities for the ESG reporting. And these are the actions that we have started through Smart Campus Cloud Network. So it is learning by doing that represents action, and accelerating by sharing that represents the collectivism. And these are the something which I would like to promote.
Thank you, sir. Now I would like to request Vidhi to present the vote of thanks.
Well, the talk was so interesting that we wish that we could have it more and more. But since we have the paucity of time, It is said that every successful story has a beautiful end, and so as this first day of our roundtable conference, with the aim of creating awareness amongst the student community on sustainability, environment, and the associated aspects, TERRE Policy Center and Mazha Career Guide Foundation has jointly organized this very special event, and it makes me feel delighted about the successful completion of day one. I take this opportunity to thank today's speaker, Dr. Rajendra Shane sir, and Mr. Sudeep Ranjan Datta for their valuable inputs, time, and the enlightenment. I also thank the team TERRE and the members of Mazha Career Guide Foundation for the support and cooperation. I also thank Mr. Saurabh Datta and Ms. Durga for their efforts, and also the viewers who are now viewing this episode. A special thanks to them because they have already taken their step towards SDG. So thank you, everyone, and stay tuned for the next day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vidhi. Thank you very much for this
Thank
great
you.
opportunity.